My name is William Davis. For 31 years, I've been the father who never said no. When Patrick needed college money, I sold my truck. When he lost his job, I opened my savings. When he got engaged, I gave him $832,000 for their future. Money I saved working 2 jobs for 20 years. 3 weeks ago, I beat stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The doctors called it a miracle. So when Patrick invited everyone over to celebrate, I thought this was our new beginning. But when my hands trembled from the chemo and I asked for help pouring water, he snapped. "You're embarrassing us in front of real people," he screamed and threw ice water in my face. 12 guests watched in silence as the water dripped off my chin. And that's when I knew. I survived cancer, but I couldn't survive my own son's cruelty. What I did next changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. But let me take you back to where it all started. 18 months ago, I was sitting in Dr. Martinez's office. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. "Stage 3 pancreatic cancer, Mr. Davis. I'm sorry." The survival rate? 30%, maybe less. My wife Sarah had been gone 5 years already. Car accident on Highway 94. Patrick was all I had left. He was 31, struggling to find his footing after another layoff, working odd jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, dating Jessica, this girl from money who made him feel small about his background. I remember my hands shaking as I signed the consent forms. The paper felt rough against my fingertips, cold, like everything else that day. But I wasn't thinking about dying. I was thinking about living, about making sure Patrick would be okay if I didn't make it. That night I called him, told him about the diagnosis. He cried, actually cried, said he'd take care of me, said we'd fight this together. For the first time in years, I felt like I had my son back. The next morning I started making plans, not just for treatment, for Patrick's future. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Patrick's voice was thick with tears. We were sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Sarah used to make pancakes every Sunday, where Patrick did his homework 15 years ago. "Listen to me, son." I reached across the table. His hands were warm. Mine were already cold from the fear. "You don't worry about money. Not anymore. I'm going to take care of everything." I meant it. Every word. Your future with Jessica, the house you've been wanting, all of it. He squeezed my hands tighter. "Dad, I just want you to get better." "I will. But if something happens..." I pulled out the papers I'd prepared. Davis Construction had been good to me for 25 years. Built up a solid nest egg, plus the life insurance, the house equity, all of it adding up to more money than Patrick had ever imagined. "This is all yours. Every penny." Patrick stared at the numbers. $832,000. His eyes went wide. Then he hugged me. The kind of hug I hadn't gotten since he was 12. "I love you, Dad. We're going to beat this. Nung trong nung tuan tiep theo." I started noticing things, small things, things that should have been red flags. The first chemo session was hell. They warned me about the nausea, the fatigue, but they didn't warn me about the loneliness. Patrick promised he'd drive me to appointments. "Of course, Dad, I'll be there." But when the day came, his phone went straight to voicemail. I took an Uber, $47 each way. The driver was nice. Asked about my day. More conversation than I'd had with Patrick in weeks. "Sorry, Dad. Job interview ran long," he texted later. Then, "How did it go?" "How did it go?" I wanted to scream. I threw up 6 times. My hair started falling out in clumps. My hands shook so bad I couldn't hold a coffee cup. But I texted back, "Fine, all good?" Mrs. Wilson next door started checking on me, bringing soup, offering rides. "Where's that boy of yours?" she'd ask. I'd make excuses, work, stress, the usual. But deep down something felt wrong. The second session I asked again. "Patrick, can you drive me Thursday?" "Ugh, Dad, I'm really swamped. Can't you get an Uber?" "Kodyo gidu kongdung." Third session I stopped asking. What I did next changed everything. I called my lawyer, Jim Henderson. We'd known each other since high school. "Jim, I need to set up something for Patrick. Joint account, but with protections." My voice was hoarse from the chemo. Everything tasted like metal. "What kind of protections, Willie?" "Medical emergency clause. If my health gets worse, I need full withdrawal rights, no questions asked. I'd been thinking about this for weeks. Patrick needed security, but I needed insurance just in case. The paperwork took 2 hours. Joint savings account, $832,000 transferred from my retirement funds. Construction business proceeds. Everything I'd built in 25 years. Patrick's name on it. But the fine print was mine. "Dad, this is incredible," Patrick said when I showed him the bank statements. His eyes lit up, dollar signs reflecting in his pupils. "Jessica's going to flip. It's for emergencies," I reminded him. "And your future." Of course, emergency only. He was already texting Jessica. I could see her name on his phone screen. "This changes everything, Dad." He was right about that. Patrick Kong Biet Nung Gitoi Hisin. What he didn't know was how much I'd given up to fill that account. The business, the house equity, everything. The 3rd month of chemo was when my body really started failing. Lost 30 pounds. Went from 180 to 150. My clothes hung on me like scarecrow rags. My skin turned this grayish color, like old newspaper. I had to sell my truck, the red F-150 I'd driven for 8 years. Patrick loved that truck. Used to borrow it for dates in high school. But I needed the cash for medical expenses. $23,000. Dropped it straight into our joint account. Called Patrick to tell him. Voicemail. Again. Mrs. Wilson found me passed out in my driveway after a chemo session. Dehydrated. Weak. She drove me to the ER. Sat with me for 4 hours while they pumped fluids into my arm. "Where's Patrick?" the nurse asked. I told her he was busy. Work emergency. Mrs. Wilson just looked at me. Sad eyes. She knew. That night, Patrick finally called back. "Dad, sorry I missed your call. Jessica and I were looking at venues." Venues? For their wedding, while I was unconscious in a hospital parking lot. "I sold the truck," I told him. "Oh, okay. Why?" "Medical bills." "Right. Well, you've got that account we set up, right? Varoa Jessica Vau Kwok." He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask about my health, just the money. Jessica started showing up more, always with suggestions. "Mr. Davis, you should really consider a home nurse." Always with solutions that cost money. "Patrick's been so stressed about your situation." My situation, like my cancer, was an inconvenience. She was pretty, I'll give her that. Blonde hair, designer clothes, came from money. Her father owned 3 car dealerships. But there was something cold in her eyes, something calculating. "Patrick tells me you've been very generous," she said one afternoon. We were sitting in my living room. Patrick was in the bathroom. "The account you set up for your future." "For his future," I corrected. "Of course, your future together." She smiled. Perfect white teeth. "It's just, Patrick feels guilty, taking your money while you're sick." "It's not taking, it's giving." "Right. But maybe you're being a little dramatic about the cancer. I mean, lots of people get better." She leaned forward. "Patrick needs to focus on his career. On us. All this hospital drama is really affecting him." I stared at her. Hospital drama. That's what she called my fight for life. Patrick came back from the bathroom. "Ready to go, babe?" They left together. Jessica's arm linked through his, like she owned him. "Ngay Patrick Noi Cao Do." That's when I realized she'd already won. The worst chemo session yet. Round 6. They warned me this one might knock me down harder. They were right. Spent 2 days throwing up. Couldn't keep water down. Called Patrick. "Dad, you need to stop being so needy." Needy. The word hit me like a punch to the stomach. I was sitting on my bathroom floor, too weak to stand, too dizzy to move. And my son called me needy. I can't drive myself to the next appointment. "Dad, I've got a job interview. Big opportunity." "Can't you take an Uber?" "It's a 4-hour session. They said I might need someone to..." "Figure it out, Dad. I can't keep dropping everything because you're feeling sorry for yourself." Click. He hung up. I sat on that cold tile floor for 20 minutes. The pattern was small white squares. I counted them. 147 tiles, each one perfectly square. Perfect. Unlike everything else in my life. Mrs. Wilson drove me to chemo, sat with me the whole time, brought magazines, crackers, more kindness than my own son had shown in months. "He'll come around," she said. "Sometimes people get scared, they pull away." I wanted to believe her. Do lalandau tien toingi vike hoach bi. But something had shifted, something I couldn't take back. The signs were there, but I ignored them. 2 weeks later, I got the call I'd been praying for. Dr. Martinez's voice was different, excited. William, the latest scans look good, really good. The tumors are shrinking significantly. My hands shook as I held the phone, but this time it wasn't from the chemo. It was from relief, from joy, from the first good news I'd heard in 8 months. I called Patrick immediately, heart pounding. Couldn't wait to share this miracle. "That's nice, Dad." His voice was flat, distracted. I could hear Jessica in the background, something about caterers. "Nice? Patrick, this means I'm beating it. The cancer is actually shrinking." "Yeah, great. Listen, Dad, we're kind of in the middle of something. Can we talk later?" "But son, this is—" "Later, Dad, okay?" The line went dead. I stared at the phone. The best news of my life. The miracle the doctors called it. And my son couldn't spare 5 minutes to celebrate with me. I sat in Dr. Martinez's office afterward. The nurse asked if I needed to call anyone else. Family members who should know the good news. "No," I said. "There's no one else." Mrs. Wilson made me a cake when I told her. Store-bought, but she put candles on it. "This calls for celebration," she said. We ate it on my back porch. 2 60-year-olds celebrating like it was New Year's Eve. She cared more about my survival than my own son did. Mo tuan sao, Dieu te hon shai ra. The disconnect was growing, and I was starting to pay attention. That's when things got worse. Jessica wanted to introduce me to her parents. "A nice dinner," she said. "Somewhere upscale. Translation, somewhere expensive. Somewhere I'd be paying. Morello's, downtown. White tablecloths, $100 steaks. The kind of place where Sarah and I went once a year for our anniversary. Jessica's parents were polished. Her father, Richard Wilson, owned Wilson Automotive Group. Her mother, Carol, had that look of someone who'd never worried about money. Ever. I was still weak, still 20 pounds underweight. My hands shook when I tried to cut my steak. Basic motor functions weren't quite back yet. That's when it happened. I reached for my water glass. My hand trembled. The glass slipped. Water spilled across the white tablecloth. "God, Dad, can you at least try to act normal?" Patrick's voice cut through the restaurant noise. Other diners turned to look. This is embarrassing. I felt my face burn. 60 years old, and my son was scolding me like a child, in front of strangers, in front of his girlfriend's family. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Started cleaning up with my napkin. The water had spread everywhere, cold and humiliating. Carol Wilson leaned over to Jessica, whispered something behind her hand. I caught the word embarrassing. Richard Wilson cleared his throat. "These things happen," he said, but his voice was strained, uncomfortable. I paid the bill, $380, for the privilege of being humiliated by my own son. Toi trabil, $380 chobua endu. Dula selam, ula. Walking to the car, I realized something. I'd just paid to watch my son choose them over me. I should have seen it coming. 2 days after the restaurant disaster, Patrick showed up at my house. But not to apologize. Not to check on me. He had a request. "Dad, Jessica and I need a favor." He was standing in my kitchen, the same spot where he used to eat cereal before school, where I taught him to tie his shoes. "We found a house, perfect starter home, but we need a down payment." "How much?" Though I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. $50,000. Should be easy, right? You've got that account we set up. $50,000, just like that, for a house I'd never see, for a life that didn't include me. "That money is for emergencies, Patrick." "This is an emergency. Dad, we can't keep living in that apartment. Jessica's parents think we're not serious about our future." He sat down across from me. "Come on. You said you'd take care of everything." I looked at my son, really looked at him. When did his eyes become so cold? When did every conversation become about money? "You have that account we set up, right?" That's how he said it. Like I worked for him. Like I was his personal bank. "I'll think about it," I said. "What's to think about? It's just sitting there. Just sitting there. $832,000 I'd saved over 25 years. Just sitting there. Va roi dengai birthday." He left without saying goodbye, without asking how I felt, without mentioning that I was still recovering from cancer. I was becoming an ATM with feelings he didn't want to deal with. Then came my birthday, my 59th, the first one without Sarah, the first one as a cancer survivor. I woke up that morning thinking maybe Patrick would remember. Maybe he'd call. Maybe we'd do something small, quiet. Just father and son. My phone stayed silent. 10 a.m. Nothing. Noon. Nothing. By evening, I realized the truth. He'd forgotten. Completely forgotten. Mrs. Wilson knocked on my door around 6. "Happy birthday, Willie." She had a cake. Dollar store candles. "Where's Patrick?" "He's busy," I said. Same lie I'd been telling for months. "On your birthday?" I couldn't answer that, because the answer was too painful. Yes, on my birthday. On the day I turned 59. On the day I celebrated surviving cancer. My son was too busy for me. We ate cake on my porch. Mrs. Wilson tried to make conversation. Asked about my health, my plans, my future. Normal things. Things a son should ask his father. "You deserve better," she said finally. I knew she was right. But knowing and accepting are different things. That night I sat in my empty house. Thought about Sarah. About the birthdays when Patrick was young. When he made me cards with construction paper and crayons. When he cared. My phone buzzed. Text message. Finally. "Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry. Crazy day. Rain check on dinner?" Rain check. Like my birthday was a casual appointment. Like 59 years of life could be rescheduled. Hi ngai sao, Patrick Goy. I turned off my phone. Sat in the dark. And for the first time, I started making plans that didn't include my son. "Dad, let's celebrate you beating cancer." Patrick's voice was different when he called. Warm, excited, like the old Patrick. The one who used to help me with construction projects. Who used to ask my advice about everything. "I want to throw you a proper celebration dinner," he continued. "At your place, family style, like Mom used to do." My heart jumped. Maybe Mrs. Wilson was right. Maybe he just needed time to process everything. The cancer, the fear of losing me. Maybe this was our fresh start. "I'd like that, son." "Great. I'll invite Jessica, her parents, some neighbors. Make it special." He paused. "Dad, I know I've been distant. The cancer thing, it scared me. I didn't handle it well." The cancer thing. Not the best way to phrase it, but at least he was acknowledging something. "We all deal with fear differently," I said. "Exactly. So let's start over. Saturday night? I'll bring the wine. You just focus on cooking your famous pot roast." Famous pot roast. He remembered. Sarah's recipe. The one I made every Sunday when he was growing up. The one he always asked for on special occasions. I spent 3 days preparing. Went to the good grocery store, the one with the expensive meat. Bought the best roast they had. Sarah's secret ingredient, red wine vinegar. The whole house smelled like memories. Saturday morning, I cleaned everything twice. Polished the dining room table, set out Sarah's good china. The plates we saved for Christmas and birthdays. Patrick called around noon. "Dad, I hope you don't mind, but I invited a few extra people. Jessica's family wants to get to know you better." I didn't mind. I was just happy to have a full house again. Happy to feel useful. Happy to be a father worth celebrating. Toi kong bieto labua and koi kong. I put on my best shirt. The blue one Sarah bought me. Still too big now, but it would do. Tonight was about new beginnings. By 6 p.m., my house was full of voices. Jessica's parents, Richard and Carol Wilson. Her brother Michael and his wife. A few neighbors, Mrs. Wilson. The Johnsons from down the street. 12 people total. The most life my house had seen since Sarah died. I was serving the roast when I first noticed the undercurrent. Whispers, glances, the kind of conversation that stops when you walk into a room. Such a burden on the family, I heard Carol Wilson say. "Some people just milk their illnesses," Richard replied. For attention. They didn't see me standing in the doorway, didn't see my hands start to shake. Not from the chemo this time, from anger. Patrick was nodding along. My son. Nodding along while strangers talked about me milking cancer for attention. I set the platter down harder than I meant to. The sound cut through the conversation. Everyone turned to look at me. "Sorry," I said. "Just heavy platter." "Dad, you okay?" Patrick asked. But his voice was strained, irritated, like I was disrupting his party. "Fine, just need to get the vegetables." In the kitchen, I gripped the counter. The granite was cold under my palms. I could hear them resume talking, laughing, making jokes about something I couldn't quite catch. Mrs. Wilson appeared beside me. "You sure you're all right, Willie?" "Just tired," I said. She squeezed my shoulder. "You're doing great. Don't let anyone tell you different." I brought out the vegetables, tried to participate in the conversation. but every time I spoke, I felt like I was interrupting something, like they were tolerating me in my own home. Jessica kept checking her phone. Carol Wilson kept looking at her watch. Patrick kept refilling wine glasses and getting louder, more animated, like he was performing for an audience. Varwa toilam dia din men. Around 8:30, my hands started shaking again, the medication wearing off. I needed water, just a simple glass of water. In that moment, everything changed. I was standing at the head of my own table, in my own house, surrounded by 12 people. The water pitcher was right there, 18 inches away. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The chemo medication did this sometimes, made simple tasks impossible. Dr. Martinez warned me about it. Fine motor control issues, he called it. Medical speak for, you'll look pathetic in front of people. I reached for the pitcher. My hand trembled. Water would spill everywhere if I tried to pour it myself. On Sarah's china, on her tablecloth, in front of all these people. So I did what any son would want his father to feel comfortable doing. I asked for help. "Patrick," I said quietly, "could you pour me some water, please?" The table went silent. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Conversations died mid-sentence. 12 pairs of eyes focused on me. Patrick looked up from his wine glass. His face changed, hardened, like I'd asked him to rob a bank. "God, Dad." His voice was loud, too loud. "Stop acting like a helpless victim." I felt the words hit me like a physical blow. Helpless victim, in front of everyone, in front of strangers. "You're embarrassing us in front of real people." He stood up, grabbed the water pitcher. But instead of pouring it into my glass, he threw it in my face. Cold water, ice cubes, hitting my skin like tiny hammers, running down my cheeks, soaking my blue shirt, Sarah's shirt. 12 people watched in complete silence. Nobody moved, nobody gasped, nobody said a word. Water dripped from my chin onto Sarah's good china, onto the tablecloth where we used to have family dinners, where Patrick used to tell us about his school day. I wiped my face with a napkin, slowly, quietly. "I think dinner's over," I said. "Kong ai noi gi, toi dung dai trong em lang." And in that silence, something inside me broke, and something else was born. Nobody said a word. Nobody moved to help me. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Water still dripped from my hair, from my chin. Each drop hitting the table sounded like thunder. Carol Wilson cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should—" "No," Patrick said. "He deserved it. Always playing the victim card." He looked around the table. "You all saw it. The dramatics. The helpless act." Jessica was staring at her phone, wouldn't meet my eyes. Richard Wilson stood up first. "I think we should go." Others followed, chairs scraping, mumbled goodbyes. "Thank you for dinner. Feel better." Empty words, hollow politeness. Mrs. Wilson was the last to leave. She stopped beside my chair, touched my shoulder. "Willie?" "It's okay," I said. "Thank you for coming." But it wasn't okay, and we both knew it. Patrick and Jessica left without helping clean up, without apologizing, without acknowledging what had just happened. "See you later, Dad," Patrick called from the door, like he'd just spilled salt, not my dignity. I sat alone in my dining room, water still dripping from my shirt, looking at 12 dirty plates, 12 wine glasses, the remains of my famous pot roast. Sarah's china would need washing. Her tablecloth would need the laundry. Her husband would need... What? What did I need? I started clearing the table, slowly, methodically. Each plate told a story. This one, where Carol Wilson cut her meat into tiny pieces. This one, where Michael barely touched his food. This one, where my son ate heartily while planning my humiliation. The security camera in the corner had been recording everything. Red light blinking, faithful witness to my shame. Dem do toi kong nangu, toi ko viek phai lam. I finished cleaning at midnight, but I wasn't tired. For the first time in months, I was wide awake, clear-headed, ready to take action. Time to review my options. What I discovered that night. At 2 a.m., I was sitting at my computer. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm. After everything you thought you knew gets washed away. I pulled up the joint account paperwork. The documents Jim Henderson had prepared 8 months ago. Documents Patrick had signed without reading because he trusted me, because he thought he was getting a gift. Page 7, Section 12B, Medical Emergency Withdrawal Clause. In the event of ongoing medical treatment or health complications related to the primary account holder's condition, said primary account holder retains full withdrawal rights without secondary approval. I'd insisted on that clause. Jim thought it was excessive. Willie, you're giving the boy access to everything. Why would you need an escape hatch? Insurance, I'd told him. Just insurance. Jim was thorough. Always had been. The clause was bulletproof. Legal, ironclad. I could withdraw every penny and Patrick couldn't contest it. Not legally, not morally, not after tonight. I clicked over to my bank account. Online banking. $832,000 sitting there. Money I'd earned. Money I'd saved. Money I'd stupidly shared with someone who saw me as an ATM. Next tab, travel websites. Ireland. I'd always wanted to visit. Sarah and I had planned a trip for our 30th anniversary. Never got the chance. Car accident took her 2 months before we could book the flights. Dublin to Cork. Small villages, green hills, places where nobody knew about cancer or ungrateful sons or water thrown in faces. Retirement visa for American citizens. Financial requirements. Proof of $4,000 monthly income or $50,000 in Irish banks. I had 16 times that amount. Next tab, real estate. Irish cottages, stone walls, gardens, peace. The plan formed slowly like sunrise, like hope. I could be on a plane in 18 hours. Could start over at 59. Could leave behind the son who threw water in my face and the daughter-in-law who counted my money like a casino dealer. Toi da dan bai cancer. Gio den lot loi cancer kak. I took a screenshot of the bank account, printed out the medical emergency clause, saved the real estate listings. By dawn I had a plan. The next morning I put my plan into action. First call, Aer Lingus. I need a one-way ticket to Dublin. Today's flights. Certainly, sir. May I ask if this is for business or pleasure? Pleasure. The first pleasure I'd planned in months. Departure at 6:45 p.m. from Logan. That gives you about 8 hours to prepare. 8 hours to dismantle a 31-year relationship. 8 hours to close the book on fatherhood. Second call, Jim Henderson. Jim, I need to execute that medical emergency clause today. Willie, what's wrong? Is your health? My health is fine. It's everything else that's sick. He didn't ask for details. Good lawyers never do. I'll prepare the paperwork. Bank opens at 9. Third, Mrs. Wilson. I need a favor. Can you watch the house for a few days? Of course, dear. Going somewhere? Ireland. She was quiet for a moment. How long? I don't know yet. This is about last night, isn't it? Mrs. Wilson saw everything from her kitchen window. Everything. Yes. Good for you, she said. That boy needs to learn some consequences. I packed one small suitcase. Everything else could stay. The house, the furniture, the memories. All of it frozen in time until I decided what came next. In the kitchen drawer, I found Sarah's stationery. Cream-colored paper with small roses in the corner. She used it for thank you notes, for sympathy cards, for the important things. I wrote 2 sentences. That's all. 2 sentences that would explain everything. The letter went on the kitchen table. Right where Patrick used to eat breakfast, where he used to ask for help with math homework, where he used to tell me about his dreams. Sang hom sao, toi thu kien ke hoch. At 8:45 a.m., I was standing outside First National Bank, waiting for them to open, waiting to take back control of my life. The security guard unlocked the doors. Good morning, Mr. Davis. You're here early. Big day, I said. He had no idea how big. Mr. Davis, this is a very large withdrawal. The bank manager, Linda Stevens, was reviewing my paperwork. She had handled my accounts for 15 years, knew about Sarah's death, about the cancer, about the slow accumulation of everything I was about to take away. I understand that. But it's legal, correct? Yes, sir. The medical emergency clause is very clear. You have full withdrawal rights. She looked at me over her reading glasses. May I ask if everything is all right? Everything is perfect, I said, for the first time in months. The transaction took 2 hours. $832,000 doesn't move quickly. Wire transfers, verification calls, multiple signatures, each step carefully documented. We'll need to close the joint account, Linda explained. Standard procedure for complete withdrawals. Perfect. And the secondary account holder will be notified? Also perfect. At 11:30 a.m., I walked out of First National Bank with a cashier's check and a wire transfer confirmation. Every penny I'd worked for. Every dollar I'd saved, every cent I'd foolishly shared. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Patrick. Caller ID showing his name, his face, the little boy who used to ride on my shoulders, who used to help me build tree houses, who last night threw water in my face. I let it ring. Kitoi rakoi bank, phone bat dao ring, voicemail notification, then another call, then another. The panic was setting in. The reality of consequences. I drove to the airport without listening to a single message, without answering a single call, without explaining myself to anyone. For the first time in 31 years, I didn't need to explain myself to my son. Put yourself in my shoes for a second. You've just survived cancer and your own son humiliates you like this. What would you do? Drop your answer in the comments. Meanwhile, Patrick was at the ATM outside his apartment, Jessica beside him, both of them staring at the screen like it was showing them a cancer diagnosis. Insufficient funds. That can't be right, Jessica said. Check again. Patrick tried 3 more times. Same message, same impossible reality. Call the bank, Jessica demanded. Hello, this is Patrick Davis. I need to check the balance on account number 4,821 to 832 inches. Silence. Typing. More silence. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, but that account was closed this morning. All funds were withdrawn by the primary account holder. Primary account holder? I thought we were both. No, sir. Your father, William Davis, was the primary. You were listed as secondary with limited access. Patrick's face went white. How much did he withdraw? $832,000, sir. Complete account closure. The phone slipped from Patrick's hand, clattered on the pavement. Jessica scrambling to pick it up. This is Jessica Wilson. I'm Patrick's fiancée. There must be some mistake. The bank representative was patient but firm. No mistake, ma'am. All withdrawals were legal and properly documented. Jessica hung up, turned to Patrick. What do you mean the money's gone? Gone. All of it. But I already put deposits down. The wedding venue, the caterers, $25,000 in deposits. Patrick called me 47 times that day. 47 calls I didn't answer. Each ring a little more desperate. Each voicemail a little more panicked. Dad, call me back. There's been a mistake. Dad, this isn't funny. Where's the money? Dad, Jessica's freaking out. Just call me. Jessica Fathayenra. The final voicemail came at 6 p.m., just as my plane was boarding. Dad, I'm sorry about last night. Let's talk about this. Sorry about last night. Like throwing water in my face was a minor disagreement. Too little. Too late. What do you mean, all of it? Jessica was pacing Patrick's apartment, small circles like a caged animal, her engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. All of it. $832,000 gone. Gone where? Money doesn't just disappear. Patrick was sitting on his couch, head in his hands, reality sinking in like water through a roof. My dad took it. He emptied the account. Your dad took his own money? How is that legal? Apparently it was always his money. I was just secondary access. Jessica stopped pacing. Secondary access? You told me it was ours. You said your father was giving us our future. I thought he was... You thought? Her voice was getting higher, sharper. I've been planning our entire life around that money. The house, the wedding, everything. She was right. They'd spent months making plans. Big plans. Expensive plans. Plans that required a foundation of money that had just vanished. We can figure this out, Patrick said. He's probably just upset about last night. The water thing. He'll come around. The water thing? Patrick, you humiliated your cancer survivor father in front of 12 people. What did you think was going to happen? He was being dramatic. You said so yourself. You said he was milking the cancer for attention. I never told you to throw water in his face. The truth was emerging. Ugly truth. Jessica had encouraged the disrespect, but Patrick had taken the action. They were both responsible, both complicit. I can't marry someone with no money, Jessica said quietly. What? My parents, my friends. They're expecting a certain kind of wedding, a certain kind of life. I can't... She pulled off her engagement ring, set it on the coffee table. Maybe we should take a break. Nung toi van chua song. And just like that, Patrick lost everything in one day. Money, fiancé, future, all of it. But I wasn't done yet. Logan Airport, international departures. I'd never flown internationally before. Sarah and I always talked about it. Someday, we'd say, when we have time, when we have money, when we retire. Someday had arrived. Check-in was simple. 1 bag, 1 passenger, one-way ticket. Any reason for your visit to Ireland, sir? The airline agent asked. New beginning, I said. She smiled. Wonderful. Connecting through Dublin? Ending in Dublin. The departure lounge was full of families, couples, business travelers. Everyone had somewhere to go, someone waiting for them. I had neither. And for the first time in months, that felt like freedom. I texted Mrs. Wilson. Plane boards in an hour. Please give Patrick the letter on my kitchen table. Don't read it yourself. Just give it to him. She responded immediately. Safe travels, Willie. You're doing the right thing. Boarding announcement. Flight 825 to Dublin now, boarding all passengers. I was in seat 12A, window seat. As the plane taxied, I looked out at Boston, the city where I'd lived my entire life, where I'd built a business, raised a son, lost a wife, beat cancer, where my son threw water in my face. The plane lifted off at 6:47 p.m. Below me, the lights of Massachusetts grew smaller, disappeared. I was 59 years old, and I was starting over. Trenduong-den Airport. Somewhere below, Patrick was probably calling the airline, probably trying to stop me, but you can't stop someone who's already gone. The flight attendant offered me dinner. Yes, please, I said. First airplane meal of my life. It was terrible and wonderful at the same time. 8 hours to Dublin. 8 hours to plan my new life. 8 hours later, I was standing in Dublin Airport. Welcome to Ireland, the customs officer said. Purpose of your visit? Retirement. Lovely. How long will you be staying? I don't know yet. He stamped my passport. The sound was decisive, final, like a judge's gavel. Dublin was green. Even in the airport, you could sense it. Something different in the air. Something cleaner. Something that smelled like rain and possibility. The taxi driver was chatty. First time in Ireland? Yes. American, right? What brings you over? Starting fresh, I said. Ah, sure. Ireland's good for that. Fresh starts and clean slates. He looked at me in the rearview mirror. You look like a man who needs both. He drove me to a small bed and breakfast in Temple Bar. Cobblestone streets, narrow buildings, everything old and solid and permanent. The opposite of everything I'd left behind. My room was small, clean. A window overlooking the Liffey River. I sat on the bed and called Dr. Martinez. William, how are you feeling? Better than I have in months. That's wonderful. The latest scans were very encouraging. Are you keeping up with your medication schedule? Every day. But I'm calling from Dublin. Dublin, as in Ireland? I decided to start over somewhere new. He was quiet for a moment. That sounds healthy. Change of scenery can be very beneficial for recovery. Recovery. From cancer, yes, but also from something else. Something that had been poisoning me longer than any tumor. Meanwhile, back in America, I hung up and ordered room service. Fish and chips, my first Irish meal. It tasted like freedom. Through the window, I could see people walking along the river. Couples, families, tourists. Everyone going somewhere. Everyone belonging somewhere. For the first time in months, I felt like I could belong somewhere too. The cottage in County Cork cost $180,000. Stone walls, thatched roof, half an acre of garden. The real estate agent, Siobhan, was a grandmother who'd lived in Cork her entire life. It's been empty for 6 months, she explained as we walked through the rooms. Previous owner passed. Children live in London now, looking for a quick sale. Perfect. Clean slate. No history. No memories of sons who throw water in faces. I'll take it, I said. Don't you want to think about it? See other properties? I've thought about it enough. The paperwork took 3 days. Irish bureaucracy moved slowly, but it moved. By Friday, I had keys to my new life. The neighbors welcomed me with brown bread and curiosity. American, then? Asked Mary O'Sullivan from next door. What brings you to Cork? Health reasons, I said. Which was true, just not the health reasons she was thinking. I bought basic furniture, planted a small garden, tomatoes, carrots, herbs, things that would grow in Irish soil. Things that would thrive in this new environment. The first medical appointment was encouraging. Dr. Murphy reviewed my records from Boston. Your oncologist did excellent work. How are you feeling? Stronger every day? The Irish air will help. Clean living, less stress. He looked at me carefully. You seem like a man who's left stress behind. If only he knew. I joined a cancer survivor support group in Cork. 12 people, all ages, all stories, but one thing in common, we'd all faced death and chosen life. "What's your story, William?" asked Bridget, a grandmother who'd beaten breast cancer twice. "I survived 2 kinds of cancer," I said. "The kind in your body and the kind in your family. Toi kong hoi han, nung patrick thi." They understood. In Ireland, family drama wasn't uncommon. Neither was starting over. 6 weeks in Ireland, and I felt more alive than I had in 2 years. My hair was growing back, gray but thick. My weight was returning to normal. Color in my cheeks for the first time since chemotherapy. The garden was thriving. Irish soil was rich. Everything grew faster here, stronger, like it was making up for lost time. I'd made friends at the local pub, the Sailor's Rest. Every Tuesday, a group of men my age gathered to play cards and complain about politics. They accepted me without question. American who moved to Cork for health reasons. Story as old as emigration itself. "You look better every week," said Fergus, a retired fisherman. "Ireland agrees with you. It does." "What did you do back in America?" "Construction. Built houses for 25 years. Honest work. Honest work. I didn't mention the sun, the cancer, the money, the water in the face. Here I was just William. American who liked Irish beer and could build a decent stone wall. My phone rang occasionally. International number. Boston area code. Patrick still trying to reach me. Still hoping to fix what couldn't be fixed. I never answered. Mrs. Wilson emailed once a week. Updates on the neighborhood. The weather. Carefully avoiding mention of Patrick. But the subtext was clear. He was struggling. "House is still empty," she wrote. "Mailbox is full. Grass needs cutting." Good. Let him see what neglect looked like. Let him feel what abandonment felt like. One evening, I was working in the garden when Mary O'Sullivan came over. "Beautiful tomatoes," she said. "Thank you." "You seem happy here, William." "I am. Good. Life's too short to spend it with people who don't appreciate you." Meanwhile, back in America, I smiled. Ireland was full of wisdom, and I was finally ready to listen. Meanwhile, Patrick's life was falling apart piece by piece. Without Jessica's income, he couldn't afford the apartment. Had to move in with 2 roommates. Strangers who charged him $800 a month for a bedroom that smelled like old carpet. The wedding venue demanded payment. $25,000 or they'd cancel everything. Patrick tried to negotiate, tried to explain. They didn't care about his explanations. "Contract's a contract," the manager said. "Payment or cancellation. Cancellation." The word followed Patrick everywhere now. He called lawyers, 3 of them. All said the same thing. Your father had every legal right to withdraw his own money. But he gave it to me. Did he sign over ownership? Transfer the deed? Make you the primary account holder? No, no, no. Patrick had assumed. Assumed the money was his. Assumed his father would never take it back. Assumed throwing water in an old man's face had no consequences. He was wrong about everything. Jessica wouldn't return his calls. Her friends avoided him at restaurants. The Wilson family treated him like he had a contagious disease. Poverty. In their social circle, it was worse than cancer. Roy on to Doc letter. 3 months after I left, he finally went to the house. Finally read what I'd left for him. The letter was still on the kitchen table. Cream-colored paper with small roses. Sarah's stationery. Patrick sat in the same chair where he used to eat breakfast, where I used to help him with homework, where we used to plan his future. He opened the envelope slowly. Inside, 2 sentences. That's all. 2 sentences that explained everything. I survived cancer, but I couldn't survive the cancer of disrespect from my own son. The $832,000 was my gift to you. The lesson is my gift to myself. Below that, a CD. Hand-labeled, security footage, dinner 3/15. Patrick slipped the CD into his laptop, watched himself throw water in my face. Watched 12 people sit in stunned silence. Watched his father, his cancer survivor father, wipe water from his chin with quiet dignity. On the recording, he could hear his own voice. "You're embarrassing us in front of real people." Real people, like I wasn't real, like surviving cancer wasn't real, like 25 years of fatherhood wasn't real. He watched the video 3 times, each time seeing something different. My shaking hands, my thin frame, my attempt to maintain dignity while water dripped from my face. 6 months later, for the first time, Patrick understood what he'd done. 6 months later, I was completely cancer-free. Dr. Murphy delivered the news in his Cork office. "Clean scan, William. No signs of disease. You've beaten this thing." "Both kinds," I said. He smiled. He'd learned my story over the months, understood my journey wasn't just medical. The garden was in full bloom. Tomatoes, carrots, herbs, and something new. A rose bush. Red roses. Sarah's favorite. I planted it in a sunny corner where she would have loved to sit. The postman delivered a letter that morning. American stamp. Boston postmark. Patrick's handwriting. "Dad, I'm sorry. I understand now. The money, the disrespect, everything. I was wrong. Jessica left me. The wedding's canceled. I lost my apartment. I know this is my fault. I know you probably won't forgive me. But I needed you to know. I understand now." I read it twice. Set it in the drawer with the others. He'd sent 17 letters. I'd read them all. But understanding and forgiveness weren't the same thing. Sometimes the best medicine isn't chemo. It's cutting out toxic relationships. I walked to my garden, tended my roses, breathed Irish air. I beat 2 cancers that year. Only one of them was in my body. If this story taught you anything about setting boundaries with toxic family members, make sure to subscribe for more stories about people who finally stood up for themselves. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.